If you look at our DNA, we are bunch of folks who have been building vehicles. So vehicle technology is our DNA. So over the course of next 5 years, we will double down on our investments when it comes to building these capabilities. Battery technology, drivetrain, powertrain, and power electronics. So that is so if we get these four core capabilities right, and if we position ourselves as a first mover there, then we create a platform. So basically, on those platform, you can build a tractor or a rice harvester, any off-road equipment. So that's how we see ourselves.
Hi, wherever you're joining me, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to India Tech Report, a podcast dedicated to chronicling and supporting the growth of India's deep tech and climate tech ecosystems, one conversation at a time. I'm Hari Arakli, and in today's episode, I sit down with Anoop Srikantaswamy, founder and CEO of Moonrider, an electric tractor startup in Bengaluru. Anoop and his fellow founder Ravi Kulkarni bring deep background in the industry, having previously worked at automotive giants such as Toyota and Volvo Group. Mechanical engineers by training, the two are entrepreneurs at heart, with Anoop having previously attempted a hyperlocal medicine delivery venture, while Ravi co-founded another electric mobility venture that he exited. Anoop recalled that the idea for Moonrider was sparked by a conversation with a progressive farmer who had noted that while diesel is expensive, farm electricity is often free in India. Today, Moonrider is vertically integrated, developing proprietary battery technology and power electronics in-house to achieve price parity with diesel. In this conversation, we explore their moonshot journey, named in honor of the Chandrayaan launch, and discuss the future of connected and autonomous farming. So join us for an insider look at how Moonrider aims to drive the global shift towards sustainable electric mechanization. So Anup, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate your time and looking forward to bringing my audience a simple update on Moonrider. To get us started, let's dive right into what Moonrider is about today, and then we'll go from there. All yours.
Thank you, Hari, for having me on the podcast. It's a great thing to have a conversation with you and your audience. Uh, Moonrider is all about electric tractors. We have the ambition to build electric tractors from India to the world. In the last 2.5 years, that's what we've been building from Bangalore here. Uh, we're a bunch of mechanical engineers who've been building various form factors of vehicle, and then we bumped on to making electric tractors, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2.5 years.
So 2.5 years roughly is when you started the company, 3 years
Yes.
ago?
So August of 2023 is when formally we started. Basically, Ravi and I, both of us have been in the EV space for the last 8 years and in the automotive industry for 15, 20 years now. We got this idea from one of the progressive farmers. Why don't you guys build an electric tractor for me? Farm electricity is free. So that was the eureka moment for us sometime early 2023. And we started building and formalized Moonrider from August of 2023. I mean, officially incorporated.
I was going to ask you about the path that brought you to Moonrider. Can you tell us a bit about how you and Ravi met and what you all did before Moonrider?
Oh, yeah. So, I started my career with Toyota in India. I also lived in Japan with Toyota Motor Corporation, and then post that about 9 years with Volvo Group. I had a brief stint with Ola Electric as well as their head of product development. Ravi has been working with Tata Motors, Volvo Group, Electra, BYD, and so on. Ravi and I know each other for 12 years now. We worked very closely with when we were with Volvo Group. He was on the buses side of the business. I was on the trucks. Also, actually, he's a family friend. I mean, in a way, my uncle used to be his first boss in Kirloskar. So when he started the career, so that's how we bumped into each other.
Okay. And is Moonrider your first venture, or did you all try something before it?
Oh yeah, we've done couple of crazy things before, but let's say both Ravi and I had previous entrepreneurial experience, but a brief one. At least mine was. So I had done a online pharmacy in between my Volvo days for a brief period. And Ravi, before Moonrider, he built three-wheeler auto rickshaws, and Azad Group acquired it. But yeah, we had a bit of our own entrepreneurial journey before.
Okay. Um, how did you all think of the name Moonrider?
Right. So this is I have this habit of coming up with crazy names, buying domains and everything. And so it was Chandrayaan. I think it was on the day of Chandrayaan launch. So it was a goosebumps moment for us. That's when this name came to me, like Moonrider, and then we got the.
Okay. So a name inspired by Chandrayaan.
Yes.
Okay. And also your own little moonshot in India. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so you started the company 3 years ago. Did you start sort of directly with the idea of an electric tractor, or did it kind of over a period of time, through your conversations and brainstorming, kind of coalesce into this, like this is what's going to be your product?
Yeah. I think once an entrepreneur is always an entrepreneur. So both of us had our own entrepreneurial journey. We had our own pitfalls. What we wanted to was like we are a bunch of friends, Bangaloreans who love filter coffee. You know, you are a Bangalorean yourself. So we get together in, that Hatti coffee just opposite of Maya's. So every Saturday, even now, you will find us between 6 to 8 in the morning there. So while during those days, we used to discuss about a lot of ideas, and we wanted to again start our entrepreneurial journey and all of that, but nothing concrete, right? So, but what happened was. When we happened to pay a visit to one of our friend, his father is a progressive farmer. He was the one who said, like, farm electricity is free. Why don't you build a tractor for me? So quite frankly, we started off more or less officially with tractors, but we had apprehensions as to will the electric tractor work, right? So what about rural electricity and so on and so forth? So that's where we formed a small team. We went to remotest parts of India to understand how the landscape is. What about grid and so on. So, but yeah, more or less, we started off with electric tractor. But initially, we wanted to do small tractors, but then we pivoted to a heavy duty, 50, 75 horsepower tractors and so on and so forth. So that's okay. The one you see at the back.
So that's a sound.
Yeah, so 75 to 100, you can actually make it 100 as well. It's a
Yeah.
higher horsepower platform. So I think India is the largest tractor market. We sell about 1 million diesel tractors every year. There's about 90 lakh tractors in the on Indian roads. 45% of the installed capacity globally is India, right? So there is a very solid foundation, and on top of it, it's still a lot of scope. Like for example, in the US, if you look at, there's one tractor for every second farmer, right? In India, it is like 22 tractors for 1,000 farmers. So it's still a long way to go. India imports, I mean, the fuel from an energy security standpoint, right? If you look at $10 billion worth of oil and fuel goes to tractors alone, right? So when we looked into the market, there was hardly anyone on the electric tractors, and there's a significant impact you're going to create, by electrifying the fleet, and that's when we happened to build electric tractors.
Mm. And to extend this point, can you talk about who your natural sort of customers are? I mean, I was listening to one of your previous interviews where you've mentioned some innovative partnerships as well, not necessarily directly selling to folks. Give us a sense of how all of that is evolving in terms of your customers.
Sure. Hari, not a lot of people know this, but 65% of the tractors in India are on rent. So
Okay.
it's like you and I buy tractors for our own use, and then in order to increase the utilization, we deploy the tractors on rent. Uh, it's kind of fragmented to some extent, but let's say, uh, nevertheless, it makes all the more sense to sort of rent a tractor than buy a tractor, right? So what we've done is we've partnered with several Uber for tractor models, like large rental fleet owners Like we have a partnership in Kenya. It's called Hello Tractors. So these guys, we are running our pilots as we speak. So they will consume a lot of our tractors. Basically, they will buy the tractors and they will deploy it on rent. Similarly, we have found such partnerships in India as well. So that is one. But the newfound love was the CBGs, the compressed biogas plants, right? So essentially, one plant ecosystem would need about 15 tractors, electric tractors, so to say. And there will be many such CBG plants in India in the next 5 to 7 years. So we want to be a solution provider to these CBG plants, essentially.
For folks who don't necessarily know this application, what do they use tractors for in these compressed
CBG.
biogas?
So basically, yeah. So basically, if you look at the whole energy security piece, right? So if you look at from India's standpoint, India imports about $185 billion worth of fuel every year. That's also one of the reasons why the currency rates are fluctuation, because there's heavy dependency of oil imports and so on and so forth, right? Then the second piece is that about the so now in order to uh, you know have self reliance, etc., we need to reduce the dependency of oil imports. Now, how do you do that? By increasing the EV fleet, let's say, and alternative fuels, etc. The next piece about the energy security is the CBG, which is the compressed biogas. Essentially, what happens is that there are many ways, like, for example, you have the wheat straw, so livestock, all of that, right? So, essentially, you take the agricultural residue and then feed it to the CBG plant as an input. And the output is those compressed biogas, what you get, which can be used for commercial purposes, etc. So now, as we speak, India has about less than 1,000 CBG plants, which is already functional. Um, Over the course of the next 5 to 7 years, India alone needs about 10,000 CBG plants. Now, when it comes to CBG plants, there are three use cases. One is on the land preparation side. So basically, you prepare the land, for plowing and harvesting napier grass, etc., and use it as a bale. And then there is haulage, right? So to transport those agricultural residues to the CBG plants, and within the plant, you have those loader, catcher, grabber, etc., for the in-plant operations. So these are the three broad use cases, and this market is going to significantly grow in the next years to come. And it's not just India; it's global market, right? So Germany has about 15,000 CBG plants. Norway has 15,000. So
Mm. Okay. I mean, in general, there's more awareness today. Folks know that switching to electric vehicles has definite advantages, both simply in terms of long-term total cost of ownership, as you all sort of talk about it, was, and of course, definitely the even including the sort of carbon footprint involved in manufacturing the batteries, cells, and so on. Those, even including that, I think there's definitely a lower overall sort of carbon footprint of EVs. In the case of farmers, can you talk about what your experience has been in talking to customers? From their point of view, do they really know and do they want to switch to electric tractors? What's that scene like in India?
absolutely. I think what is so surprising is farmers, how they are informed, right? So there are YouTube influencers, basically, who are farmers, right? So farmers are hooked on to YouTube channels. They are on shorts, reels, all of these. Now, let's say the general awareness of electric tractors is there. To give you some anecdotes, we recently, conducted a FPO Mela in Bagalkot, which is one of the largest agricultural sort of markets, right? So there was 3 lakh footfalls in that, and everybody went gaga over the electric tractor. We got so many pre-bookings. I think about 150 pre-bookings by FPOs and farmers. So from March we started selling also. Our 27 horsepower tractor we started selling. Within about 15 days we sold about 20 tractors and we clocked revenue, right? So now the question is, there is general awareness and the bigger understanding of how the economics works, right? So for a farmer, if you take 1 acre of land, if you just take the running cost, right? So if you take a 50 horsepower tractor, you need about 5 to 6 liters of diesel, which will translate to about 500 to 600 rupees, right? 1 acre. Whereas our electric tractors would need about 8 units of electricity. If you charge it in the farm, it is zero because farm electricity is free. If you charge it even in the normal charger in where normal grid, you will get it for 8 to 12 rupees wherever you are depending. So essentially, you're talking about 100 rupees versus 600 rupees purely on the running cost. On top of it, the total cost of ownership, whether it is wear and tear of the parts, etc., etc. So there's a very clear benefit that farmers understand. Now, the only apprehension is that at scale, if okay, will it perform as much as a diesel tractor, right? So that's a general apprehension that we've seen, and that is where we are trying to educate, farmers and the farming community through FPOs and so on. Is that electric tractors are built for torque. Electric motors by DNA is designed for torque, right? So you will have better performance than the diesel tractors. So this educating and creating awareness is what right now we're
Mm. Sorry, what is FPO? Is an acronym?
farmer producer organizations. So it's a
Okay.
farmer collective, basically.
Okay. You just mentioned in March you started selling the 27 horsepower, 27 horsepower tractor. Can you give us an overall sense of what Moonrider has already done so far?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of your operations, customers, and you had some funding also earlier this year. So just give us a snapshot of all of that.
Sure. Overall, we have raised about $8 million so far in the last 2 years. And we have 5 ventures. We have Advantage founders. We have Mesilio, which is an Axelor fund. We also have Singularity on the cap table. Seed round, we raised about $2 million, and Series A, we raised about $6 million. That is from the investment perspectives. Then from the product aspects of it, we invested heavily on the R&D side of it. So we are vertically integrated company. So basically, where we are going after is to bring price parity with the diesel tractors, which means that we are building technology to reduce the cost. Right. So we have built our own refrigerated battery packs, which we patented. So in this facility where you are right now, we build our own battery packs here. We've designed our own powertrain. We have designed our own drivetrain, power electronics, vehicle software, all of that. In the last 1 year, we are the only one in the world who have homologated, which is nothing but a road ready certification from Indian authorities. So we are the only one who have the certificate for all three form factors of tractors: 27 horsepower, 50, and 75 horsepower. We have homologated all three form factors of battery packs. Um, Powertrain. We've built a team of 105 people, which we are going to grow to about 170 in the next 3 months. Um, so we commercialize the product. We have been seeding the product in multiple geographies and soil conditions, extensively tested in different use cases. All these things we have done in less than 15 crores. Everything built ground up.
So right now you're manufacturing them at your own plant?
Yeah. So final assembly, we do it here in the basement where you're in this facility. About 65 to 70% of the manufacturing happens in one of the contract manufacturing facilities we have, but the final assembly happens.
Okay. So on that point, can you give us again an overall sense of your commercialization journey? I would imagine like one important phase of product development and market ready product is it's done and you're already selling them. So from this point, what does the commercialization roadmap look like?
Right. So over the course of next 4 to 5 months, we are focusing on getting the first 100 tractors right. So now we have commercialized 27 horsepower. We are commercializing a 50 horsepower tractor to one of the large CBG customers. So in the next 45 days, we will be delivering our first 50 tractors to one of the CBG players, and before the end of next quarter, again another 50. So we will ensure that the first 100 tractors are delivered, it performing better, and then we design the after sales service aspects of it as well, to get the servicing aspects, spare parts, everything right for the first 100. And our belief is that if we get the first 100 tractor right, we can get the first 1,000 tractor right, and then we can sort of replicate those success from 1,000 to 10,000, etc. But over the course of this financial year, we are looking at somewhere closing with about 400 tractors. That would get us to about 60 to 65 crores of revenue.
And I know this are projections and a lot of things are subject to change, but can you share if there is a plan in terms of over the next 2 years, 3 years,
Correct.
what it'll look like? I mean, how many number of units? And in your mind, basically my question, not necessarily a specific number, but in your mind, what would represent true scale?
Right. So I think there has been, from the beginning, we have been debating about, if you look at generally the OEM, right? So there are two parts to it. One is, are you going to have a volume play or a margin play, right? So if you look at any of the other tractor manufacturers like Mahindras and Tofes of the world, this is where like you have 2-3 lakh of tractors gets built every year and so on. So it's a high volume, low margin sort of a game. What we want to build is at the moment, to be more capital efficient, we want to build low volume, sort of high margin from the day one. So over the course of next, let's say 5 years, we're targeting about 16,000 to 20,000 sort of units, and more or less like a global play. That would get us to easily about 5,000 crores of revenue. So that's there.
And so the margin, the higher margin would come because of technology innovations, and are there any also business model innovations? Can you walk us through that?
Right. So largely it is driven from the technology innovation. So if you look at, we are the only vertically integrated electric tractor manufacturer right now. So basically, in the sense that we have a patent on what we call the refrigerated technology. Basically, it reduces the cost of the battery pack by almost half. Right. So let's say, if in the market, if the if a battery pack costs about $110 a kilowatt hour, ours is about $70 a kilowatt hour, right? So that's the competitiveness that you get by vertically integrating. Now, two things happens, right? A, you build your own. You build the supply chain resilience in the sense you're not entirely dependent on the suppliers, etc. B, their margins doesn't get stacked up because you are building everything on your own, right? So the margins are largely driven by, mostly building the key components in house, and capabilities in house.
In the case of the tractor, what would those key components be?
Mainly battery pack, all the power electronics, VCU, BMS, all of that. Right now, as we speak, the motors and the MCUs are designed by us, but we have a supplier. Over the course of next 12 months, we want to do it in house as well. So it's basically three parts. One is the battery tech entirely, the drivetrain, which is the the powertrain and the transmission, and then the third piece is the power electronics. These are the most important pieces of the puzzle, which are vertically integrated.
Okay, small segue, but related. Since you mentioned motors, in the context of China's sort of monopoly over many of these things in the supply chain, especially the final processed version, whether it is rare earth mineral based magnets that go into motors and things like that, and even in batteries and so on. Is that a factor? And when you start making motors in house, what are some of the considerations for you? I mean, I know it's a whole conversation in itself. I just wanted to touch upon it, get your view for a couple of minutes.
Right. I think so. So there's a lot at play, right? So when it comes to, so if you look at China's dependency right now, that is one of the biggest challenge. So you were asking for what are the challenges that you're looking at for Moonrider or any other, EV manufacturer today. The two biggest dependencies is the motor and the cells right now. China is the only place where which is so competitive that you will not get that price anywhere else, as well as the quality that you're getting. Right now, in the last 4 or 5 months, if you see, there's been a lot of changes that has happened in the China's export credit policy. So they've removed the export credit policy on the lithium ion cells. So we've been seeing about $9 per cell has been increased. Now, if you look at the size of the battery pack, right? So a 90 kilowatt hour pack that we have has about 120 cells, which means essentially there is a cost increase of 1.5 lakh per pack. So high dependency on China, the we are prone to have fluctuations in the prices, right? So you need to hedge those risks. Similarly, motors today. So now I think one alternative to this is ferrite motors. There's been a lot of research and development going on around magnet-free motors, etc. We are also testing heavily on that. But nevertheless, I think there is no alternative to cells unless Amara Raja or Exide or Reliance builds their own cells, which we are eager to collaborate with. But I think motor and MCU, you will have to have core capabilities because Hari, one of the reason is like while we are trying to adapt to the current generation of powertrain, which is motor and MCU, the world is already moving towards 5-in-1s, right? So if you look at today as us as Moonrider, we are in Gen 2. Uh, Gen 1 is motor separate, controller separate. Gen 2 is it's an integrated motor. So we have integrated motor controllers. But going forward, we're going to integrate 5-in-1, like motors, controllers, DC-DC converters, onboard chargers, and VCU. You can't entirely depend on someone else. This is a core piece of the puzzle to get the electric tractor right, and you have to have in-house capabilities.
Mm. So you're looking to build that five
Yeah,
in one yourself.
we are headed in that direction.
Okay. What sort of a rough timeline where you think you'll have a commercially ready?
24 months.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty aggressive and
Yeah, yeah,
ambitious.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and on the motors, the reluctance motors, you probably cannot make them powerful enough for tractors, or can you?
You can, I think. So the problem is when it comes to tractors, no. So there is like the agricultural duty cycles are completely different because it's more of a application engineering, right? So you have to think about what implements you're going to sort of have. Like for example, rotavator draws a different types of current. The plow will draw a different type of current, and there is soil conditions that is. So right now, I think PMSM is the most let's say best suited, but of course there also um, a lot needs to change and customize for tractors. It cannot be like the general purpose PMSM can be like bought off the shelf and it can be used. It will never work.
Mm. Yeah, no, I was just curious because, as you know, there are like startups like Chara and all
Yeah,
who are
so,
making reluctance motors. So I was just curious about that.
so
Want to know? Yeah.
it's always a play between the size of those motors versus the efficiency. So there's only limited space. You need to have uh, at for our use cases, the motor has to perform at 93-94% efficiency. Right now, these ferrite and reluctance motors are at about 79%. So you will compromise on the range.
Mm. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the foreseeable future and also maybe slightly longer term future. Um, do you see tractors becoming increasingly more connected to the internet?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. I think even our tractors, if you see, we already started with the connected tractor technology. We have over-the-air updates. You can actually pretty much monitor all our tractors sitting in this office or anywhere else. So it's all connected to the cloud. Uh, Going forward, I'm sure because if you look at the future is autonomous, The first piece of the puzzle is the connectivity. We have been already seeing that even the diesel tractors are, getting connected. So yes, more and more tractors will be connected.
So, what are some features that will be really useful to farmers in a connected tractor that you can provide?
I think essentially it translates to, can you increase the yield or income for the farmer, right? So you have to always come back from that. So, you know, for example, disease management, all of that plays a crucial role. So for our ambition is that we want to ship every tractor with a high definition camera. You could actually map the farm. Probably with computer vision technologies, you can actually gauge, okay, with this sort of saplings, what is the protein content in that leaf, etc. What is a sort of, can you do a concentrated spray so that this sort of harvest doesn't get affected. I think essentially it should translate into higher yield, higher income for the farms. Then they will even pay for it, right? So those are the kind of um, opportunities you have when your tractors are connected.
Mm. So, do you think something like that in India, you know, uh, offers you a genuine market in terms of these value added features, maybe as a sort of an affordable subscription and in partnership with other specialists in the area? I mean, I don't know, Kava Space or Amity Labs, uh, but delivered via Moonrider. Uh, how are you looking at all of this?
So I think largely the use cases are with the farmer collectives, right? So I'll give you an example, like Sahyadri Farms in Nasik. So they have about 10,000 farmers in their collective. You know, every time we speak to them, the numbers increases. So it's one of the most successful farmer producer organization or farmer collective, right? So they've cracked the grape farming, so to say, right? So when you are actually uh, you know on those grape farming, etc. So it's important to get the spraying right. It's important to get your temperature and all those external conditions in your favor, etc. Right. So those are the places where you see these kind of value-added services more useful. We've also seen pomegranate farming in and around Kutch area in Gujarat, right? So farmers are willing to pay for those subscriptions to take those services if they can actually save a bit on, let's say, the uh, the sprayers, or for instance, they can limit the sort of chemicals that they are using, etc., etc. Right. So there is obviously an application, but it's not also like ubiquitous, like how it is in US or in the Europe. Right? So this becomes a sort of a mandatory sort of platform that they would expect when they buy tractors. But in India, I think it's starting to grow. There is more and more farmer collectives, more applications where these kind of technologies has a play.
Hmm. Since you mentioned collectives, I want to briefly go back to the earlier point about customers and how you're looking at that. Um, and also connected to the challenge in India, where even now uh, agricultural land is very, very fragmented, even
Yeah.
within families.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to your point of, uh, one tractor for every two people or something in the US versus in India, uh, how does that sort of influence how you make and sell your tractors?
So I think our with our experience of last 2.5 years, it makes sense if you have anything more than 8 to 10 acres of land to buy a tractor. Anything below 8 acres of land, it doesn't make any sense. So you will rent the tractor. So now, for if you look at largely southern belt and Maharashtra, it's mostly lower horsepower tractors because they buy it. Also, if you go towards the north, Haryana, Punjab, these are the areas where you have 50 horsepower, 60 horsepower tractors. Uttar Pradesh is largely, it's a mix of rental versus ownership. So it's actually a little bit. I mean, the land parcels are fragmented. So is the ownership of the tractors as well. So it's very fragmented today. But I think the one uh, point that sort of brings everything together is this farmer collective, the farmer producer organizations. So I think when there is a clear visibility on the yield and income for the farmer, they would be able to invest. So we are targeting through the FPOs at the moment.
Mm. Okay. I'm going to ask you about the autonomous. You made a brief comment about how they'll be increasingly autonomous, and I'll come back and I'll ask you to connect it to Moonrider in the future. Uh, how autonomous will they be? Can they be like robots in the sense that you won't need humans to drive them, and you can program them to follow a plan and sort of do their job? Or
Yeah. So I think if you take a world view of how the autonomous and autonomy will look like, especially for tractors, let's say in the next 10 years, perhaps it will be like autonomous pods, right? So you're not going to have implements, so to say, attached to the back of the tractors. I think you will have autonomous pods with specific, let's say, if it is for plowing, everything is inbuilt, etc. So I think that's a sort of a futuristic view. But how we get there? So I think what is the problem we are trying to solve with autonomous, right? So if you look at largely Western world or the developed world, there is more number of shortage in terms of drivers, right? And it's also it's very expensive to have drivers in the US or Europe, right? So you end up paying 80,000, 90,000 dollars, so to say, right? At least I'm from trucking perspective, I'm saying. So now it makes all the more sense to go for autonomous there, where you save cost on the driver, etc., etc. In India, that is not the problem you're solving, right? Because in the rural areas, you get a driver for, let's say, 400 rupees a day to drive the tractors. Mm, so so it is never going to be a problem that you're going to solve now. But by and large, I think over the course of 5 to 10 years, food security is a major problem in the world that we have to solve for. Now, there has been experiments around lab grown meat, etc., but how far it is going to be viable to consume, a lot of apprehensions around it. The only way is to maximize the agricultural production. And how do you maximize it? By mechanization, right? So you will have to increase the mechanization part. Now, there is from the mechanization, if you have to increase the mechanization, so you will need more number of laborers, more number of drivers, etc., which is in shortage today. Now, the easiest piece of the puzzle on the autonomous is to get rid of drivers, which is like, it's we are already there. I think in the next 2 years, you will start to see more commercialization around driverless tractors. But that's not the objective, right? So getting the autonomy right, automation right, that is what. So like, today there is so much of human intervention where you need 2 3 people to sort of install those cultivators at the back of the tractors. So you're getting rid of driver and you still need 3 people to sort of install those plows and cultivators. That doesn't make sense. So there has to be no human intervention in order to get there. I think we are like 5 to 7 years.
Mm. So, in the context of, or to the point that you made about making this 5-in-1 subsystem in house and then increasing autonomousness or autonomy of your tractors, do you see Moonrider increasingly becoming sort of a deep tech company? What is your view on that as you go along?
So I think, Hari, if you look at our DNA, we are bunch of folks who have been building vehicles. So vehicle technology is our DNA. We're not folks, from a extremely technology background or a operational excellence background or anything like that. But we focus on vehicle technology. That's our. So over the course of next 5 years, we will double down on our investments when it comes to building these capabilities: battery technology, drivetrain, powertrain, and power electronics. So that is a so if we get these four core capabilities right, and if we position ourselves as a first mover there, then we create a platform. So basically, on those platform, you can build a tractor or a rice harvester, any off-road equipment. So that's how we see ourselves.
Okay. I want to switch to asking you about sort of your own entrepreneurial journey, but one more question on sort of overall in terms of the ecosystem. I mean, you've mentioned parts of that when we spoke about the China factor. Um, in India today, in the e-tractor context, what are some things that are already good in the overall ecosystem, and what is work in progress? What is missing?
Like if you take a holistic view, what is good part is like India is the one of the largest tractor market, right? So which means that the traditional legacy tractor manufacturers have built the ecosystem. So you don't need to struggle for brakes, tires, etc., etc. So there is a foundation that has been built. On top of it, you have to build. So that is a good part or a great part, so to say. Now, the most challenging part of this is that you know India largely is a two-wheeler and three-wheeler market, right? So basically, it is a under 72-volt ecosystem. If you take the EV context, so all the motors, the powertrain technology, power electronics, battery, everything is under 72 volt. Whereas tractors are high voltage applications, like our 75 horsepower tractor is a 384 volt architecture. So you're actually building an ecosystem for those high voltage applications, and that is not easy. So we are not just building a startup; we are building a high voltage ecosystem around us.
Mm, okay. So on your for you and Ravi as founders, I mean, for some folks, this might sound as a silly question because now startups have become actually glamorous
Yeah.
in India. Um, but still, do you think it's a good time now in India to become a hardware technology OEM focused entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you look at largely, um, India is a land of opportunities right now, right? I mean, it has its own challenges, but let's say, um, but I think it's a great time to be an engineer in India, and it's also a great time to be an entrepreneur in India because I think fairly there is patient capital um, to a large extent. Directionally, government is taking all the right steps in terms of supporting entrepreneurs, whether it is through grant or through the fund of fund, etc. The corpus that they are trying to create. I think there is a general push from the government. There's patient capital. Also, the respect that the entrepreneurs have started to command in the society, right? So, especially coming from a South Indian background, people would have called us crazy, 10 years back if we had started, and it did happen for us also when we started, startup before. Like, people think like, you're crazy, you're leaving a comfy job and trying to build something. So that way, I think there is more acceptance from the society. So yeah, I think India is a great place to start.
So, I mean, wanting to become an entrepreneur and actually taking that leap of faith are two different things.
So, yeah.
What actually propelled you to commit to being a startup founder?
I think the kind of impact that you're going to create, um, it's unimaginable if you are actually working for a multinational or anything like that, right? So I think startup gives you that freedom to sort of aim from a garage and make sure that your products can be world class, and then um, so many people will get benefited out of if you get it right. I think that inspires a lot. So I think, at least for me, that is what made me to jump onto entrepreneurship.
And you alluded to some crazy things that you and Ravi tried before Moonrider.
Yeah.
Give us an example. What all did you try?
So I tried, India's first online pharmacy. We experimented on that. All these 30-minute delivery we were doing back in 2016. We were a hyper local model where we partnered with the pharmacy shops in Bangalore, in Mumbai, and in Delhi, and we were delivering it to, let's say, nearby apartments and so on and so forth. 30 minutes that back in the days.
Mm.
I
What was your
think
company called?
it was called Dr. Bean.
Okay.
So the name was initially Jiva, which we rebranded it as Dr. Bean. We were doing pretty good, but it was so much of regulatory barriers around online pharmacy back in the days. So we had to shut it. Similarly, Ravi is a idea bunny, right? Like, he wanted to build Karnataka's first EV testing facility. He attempted this three-wheeler startup, which Azad bought. So he actually built a e-rickshaw. So all of these, multiple such things.
I'm curious as to how, coming from companies like Toyota, you thought about an e-commerce venture. What is that about?
Oh yeah, I was in France. So actually, it was, I think, 2015. I think 2015, late 2015, I was in France on a business trip from Volvo, and I had this kidney stone in Paris, and then I had to, 4 in the morning, I picked up. I can't speak French, so I said something, and instead of sending an ambulance, they sent a fire engine, and then I had to go in a fire engine to a hospital nearby. To my surprise, it was a public hospital, right? So in France, as you know, it's a public hospital ecosystem. Nobody knows the language. I'm speaking English, they are speaking French, but no, I just pointed at, like, I have a kidney stone. The experience was so smooth. There was no waiting time. There was, like, the prescription was made. They did the CD, and then they sort of handed over the medicines as well. And then I came back from my business trip. Went to a super specialty hospital in Bangalore, and then here you go 2 hours waiting for the doctor. Um, so we thought maybe this. I thought there is a better experience that you can give. So in the whole healthcare piece, I think there are three aspects, right? Patient, provider, and payment. So we actually took the approach of patient centricity and try to solve for that. Probably if we had solved for the payments, we would have been a unicorn. So, but yeah.
Okay. So with Moonrider, did any of those sort of lessons or learnings help in any way?
Absolutely. I always say this, I think I have a 500 or a 700 page of book where, where all I screwed up and where I should not do, what I should not do, and so on. But I think I was introduced to the whole world of venture capital, private equity, all of this during my last short stint as a entrepreneur with online pharmacy, right? So I had no clue of this world. But the moment I understood what it takes to build a venture, how to raise capital, and all of this, suddenly the corporate job became boring.
Can you talk about any early challenges, whether tech or technical challenges or business operations challenges? From the point of view of other aspiring founders, taking away from your experience, anything comes to your mind? Early challenges, and how did you tackle them?
The very No matter what pedigree you have, right? So I think where we were, if you look at me and Ravi, we've been in the automotive ecosystem for like 1.5, 2 decades. Despite that, right? So when we went out to initially bounce this idea off with some of the VC friends, etc. So they were like, this is agri. Then you're in manufacturing. You're essentially selling it to the farmers. Your capex heavy. so wide, so there was a general resistance towards these ideas which are perceived to be capital intense, which is not actually that much. Where you need capital is during the R&D phase. Later you can actually leverage debt as well, right, to build your business. It's not like you need, but nevertheless, that itself was a bigger challenge. But we were fortunate. We decided, like, let's focus on building the product. Capital will follow. So then the every one of the investors we have is more or less a inbound interest at one point in time. So that way we were fortunate. But that was one challenge, I would say, when we started. Um, the other is, like, like I said, it's a technical per se, high voltage ecosystem, right? So these tractors are on the field, performing like 8 hours of operation. It can't run for 8 hours. You need to fast charge. You need a battery that can fast charge, right? So there was nothing that existed. So we had to build this rapid charging sort of a feature and everything. So initially, to get the people, to work on those ideas, build a prototype, and have conviction that it will work. So we faced a lot of challenges around it. But we could able to. I mean, we were blessed. We could able to overcome all of those.
Mm. Mm. If you think back all the way to sort of your schooling days or childhood, even, what is your earliest memory, uh, which now looking back you feel sort of had an, or maybe it was the first time or one of the earliest times when you thought about uh, doing what you're doing today? I mean, I don't know if my question makes sense, but
Sure.
in,
Sure. I see. My upbringing is largely a South Indian, traditional Brahmin family. So all of them, become engineers, do your masters, go to US, settle down. So then most of my cousins are settled in the US or the UK. That's the kind of, and so is Ravi. So, but if you look back, I think somewhere around when I was in seventh or eighth grade, probably that is the first step of my entrepreneurial journey I can always look at. So my father is a civil engineer. So he used to work for Karnataka government in the irrigation department. So you know, s- he used to have a transferable job. So I've lived in different parts of Karnataka. But when we settled down in Mysore, he was like, I need to earn extra, so probably I need to have a side gig. So he started, what do you call, construction of these houses. So he was like, you want to build a house, you go to him, he will make the plan, he will execute it, he will hand over the houses and so. I was somewhere in around eighth or ninth grade, and I'm damn good in civil engineering drawings and all of that. So I used to actually make those drawings, plans, and everything for my dad, and I used to charge, I think, 200 rupees a drawing or something like. I made a lot of money, by the way. So I bought my first mobile phone and everything. And by the time I was 11th or something like that. So all of this I did by those side gig, and I always wanted to build back in the days a large construction company because I didn't know anything else. But between my dad and I, we debated, like, he didn't wanted me to be a civil engineer, so the obvious choice was mechanical engineering. So I just got onto it. So that's how it all started. Okay, very nice. And really nice anecdote about uh, your sort of schoolboy days with your father. Let's end with your advice for aspiring hardware engineering tech entrepreneurs in India. I mean, I wanted to qualify it that way because I think in e-commerce and SaaS now, people, they're established sectors in India as well. In terms of building hardware products that involves fair amount of serious engineering and technology in India. Any advice for aspiring founders? I think in general for founders is that it's not a advice, maybe it's more a suggestion of how our journey has been. So, couple of things probably what I don't want them to, sort of repeat, even during our first entrepreneurial journey, right? So that we, I think there are a lot of people who want to give advice in India. So do not take the advice unless there is capital. So I think take the advice with capital. So I think trust yourself more rather than actually depending on someone else to sort of advise you. That is my sincere request. I think because the kind of advice that you're going to get early in the company, unless they've built or they've funded a company, um, it will change the trajectory of this product or the business that you are actually going to build, right? So be very, very protective about who you I mean, listen to everyone, but cut the noise, right? So I think just take the advice from people who have been there and done that, nothing else. So that's the first thing. um Second thing is, like, never ever question why you you know entered into entrepreneurship, right? So you saw a problem, you wanted to solve for it. That's it. So keep solving the challenges that you are facing along the way, and then probably you will navigate yourself. At every stage when the challenge occurs, if you question why did I started, probably I was better off in my job or anything like that. I think that will not take you anywhere. So I think every day you have to get up and see, okay, what is that I need to solve for today, and just move on. That's it. I think that will navigate you to some place.
That's it for this conversation, and I hope you found it interesting and insightful. You can find the links to Anoop and Ravi's bios and Moonrider's website in the description. I'll be back with another episode soon. And until then, I'm Hariarthi. Thank you for joining me.